All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. No matter where you're hailing from, I hope you watched that Jim Carrey show. If you haven't, it's really good. Um, welcome everyone to our Function Point product webinar. I'm very excited today because it is our first of the series. I do see a number of people are still in the process of joining, so we're just gonna give it a minute here. And during that minute, we're gonna start with something our special guest really loves that I've been doing to her in the office. We're talking about dad jokes. So, Talia, I know she's shaking her head already. So we're gonna start with why didn't the koala bear get the job? Oh, all
Is
right.
he? Do you actually want me to answer? Because I think I know this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it if you know this one.
The thing about when Jimmy says a dad joke is I must approach it as a riddle and I have to figure it out. I think that's why I dislike them so much. But something about hanging in there. He couldn't hang in there.
Couldn't hang there. Well, yeah, nice try. So the koala bear didn't get the job because they said she was over qualified.
Oh my gosh.
That was so bad, isn't it? All right. Well, with that, um, welcome everyone. Hope you enjoyed that humor as much as Talia and I did. But today we're going to be talking a lot about Function Points product. And so for today's agenda, we are going to talk about what we're going to be doing and as a regular cadence for the webinar, what we've done in Q3 and what's coming up for Q4. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce Talia. Talia, you've joined Function Point recently as, for a few years, but you've now moved on to the product role. So love to maybe share with the audience a little bit more about yourself, kind of what got you interested in doing product management. What is product management, really? Yeah.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yes, I started with Function Point about 3 years ago, and prior to that, my background is actually in communication design. So I am endlessly interested in how people learn and how people follow workflows and processes and execute a vision. And that's always really interested me. So when I joined the Function Point team, I was originally a customer success manager, and I got to have a lot of glimpses into agencies and how they work, have really great chats with many different agencies. A few people I see joining the call today who were super generous in their insights and feedback. And it made me want to combine that background in communication design with my knowledge of the product and the analytics to continue to develop this product for Function Point that was completely tailored to agency life and what these agencies needed. So that's why I got into product management. And as for what product management is, I am working with all of the teams across Function Point and advocating for the customer to ensure that the product that we're putting out there is exactly what you need to see. And I think this is especially important in terms of Function Point because it is your project management solution and your financial solution, but it's so specific to creative agencies that it really requires that fine tuning to make sure that the process and the workflows that we're encouraging they meet those really unique needs that I saw in onboarding, and so that's a bit about what I do.
All right. Awesome. Sounds good. Well, so in your role as a product manager, you've been in this role for about, I believe, 6 to 8 months now. I can't remember how long. It feels like you've been here forever. What What was the number one thing you wanted to accomplish when you joined the product management team?
Ooh, very good question. Um, my goal with Function Point as a whole is it has so many great features. I really want to see it becoming even easier to use. Having onboarded customers and working in post onboarding as well, one of the things that I just think we can do is make sure that people can use those amazing features even easier. So that's something that I'm really bringing to every goodie drop that we put out throughout this year. But also, we've been doing a lot of strategizing this year for what's to come in 2024, and people are going to see some really big changes in terms of this increased enhanced product.
Okay. So speaking of Goody Drop, I know one of the big things that's happened is, it seems like there's a regular cadence around new features that are being released on a monthly basis, I believe, currently. So I just want to talk a little bit about the latest one. So it seems like in July, August, and September, we have a few with deposits, estimate notes, enhanced BI. I'll let you talk. I won't steal your thunder, but I'm curious to hear a little bit, why Goody Drop? Like, how did this idea come about? And why do you feel it's a good way to deliver this? Yeah.
Yeah, we are looking to make sure that everyone sees updates and enhancements in the system every single month. So we want to be delivering that value constantly so that people are seeing more and more wonderful things coming out of Function Point and continuously being able to improve their workflows as a result. And those items are happening alongside special projects, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But this is to make sure that, while we're working on all those really big, exciting things, the end user is actually seeing great things happening in their system while it goes. And the idea of the goodie drop is also that, it's something substantial. It's gonna make an impact on your workflow, but also we're touching different areas of the system. When we spend so much time with an initiative focusing on project management, say, we want to make sure that the finance team is also getting something that they really want along the way. So then we have something like deposit visibility improvements to make sure that that everyone in the agency is really happy and sees the product moving along for them.
All right, sounds good. Well, that's exciting. So before I pass the baton to yourself to talk a little bit about what's happened in Q3, a quick housekeeping for everyone on the call. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please, in your GoToWebinar control panel, there is a question section. Feel free to punch them in at any time, and then we'll definitely ask Talia for any answers that you have. So, and keep in mind, this is being recorded, so we will once again share the recording as well as the PowerPoint deck to everyone, all the attendees afterwards. But Talia, the court is yours.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, first off, I'm going to take you through what we've done, those 3 goodie drops that we released over the past quarter. The idea being is I just want to make sure everybody can find something there that is really going to resonate with them, that they want to take back to their team, implement if they haven't already, or learn something new to bring to improve workflows. So I'm going to take you through each one of them, and I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Just one moment.
Okay, Talia, you should be able to share your screen now.
Thank you. All right. Can you all see my screen, Jimmy?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
You're seeing my Function Point system?
Yes, we are.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so I'm here in Function Point, and we're going to start out talking about deposit visibility improvements. I'm going to take us to a job here, media expenses, and I'm going to take a little pause actually before I even dive in and talk about why we put deposit visibility improvements on the roadmap, why we released it to you all. So for those that practice accrual accounting, they're going to get a lot of benefit out of this. If you actually use deposits in Function Point and you export those or you hold those funds in a liability account, it's really important for you to see not just how much you've recognized in revenue, which is this invoiced amount down here on the job summary dashboard, but also how much have you actually billed your customer. And for account managers and the finance team, that is a number that they need to know just as much as they need to know how much they've actually recognized. And they need to be able to trust in it, pull on it really easily to know how much of that budget we have left, how much more do we have to bill the customer. And also, that's a number they oftentimes need to report back on to the customer to let them know how much left they have to work with. So prior to this release, that number wasn't on the job summary dashboard. It was a little bit, we can pull it in reports, absolutely. But with the amount that account managers and finance teams specifically needed to reference that, it really needed to be brought to the forefront. So we put it on the job summary dashboard, and we can see it here in job deposits. If you don't see these numbers on your dashboard, it's because you're not using deposits. That's one of the nice things is we also wanted to make sure for all of you that don't practice accrual accounting, this isn't as relevant to you, and we didn't want to clutter up this screen with any more numbers that you don't need. So it only shows up if it actually sees deposits to present. The next thing you're going to notice is there's two. Now, why is there two panels? One says job deposits, one says all deposits. What is the difference? The difference has to do with the many different ways that people use deposits in Function Point. And there's actually different levels that you can add them to. So we could add a deposit right to the company level so that, $10,000 on the company level, it can be used towards any jobs we're working on for the company. But we could also put it on the project level so that where if we put it there, it's going to be able to be used on any of the jobs that fall under that project. And then what we see here also, this job amount, we can apply them specifically to the job to say, this is the amount of money that we have billed only for this job, only to be recognized for work done on this job. So it has to do with the specificity of where you want that money to go and be used towards. Your agency might use one or the other. They also might use all three. And that oftentimes has to come down to like what sort of terms you have with your client. So especially for those clients who use a mix of all of them, that's a lot of different tiers of deposits to be working with. And we wanted to make sure that this job summary dashboard presented you with at least two perspectives on it. And the difference between it here is this is the remaining deposit you have on deposits that were issued specifically to this job. You intended to use them for the job of media expenses. This is how much you have left. However, if you were to go and actually put an interim or a final invoice on this job right now, you would have 33,400 available to draw from. And that's because there's more deposits at the project or the company level. You might not need to, but it's a really important number that you can know in terms of what's there for actual use. Because sometimes people do need to use a mixture of them. So that's really the difference between these two different numbers, is specifically looking at the job where we are right now, but then looking at it as a whole on the company. And I can really demonstrate this by I'm going to go to add new, and I'm going to add an interim or a final invoice to actually use a bit of that deposit up. I'm going to build this invoice off of actuals. So I pull in the amount for one of my expenses, and we can see here my invoice totals 1,500. So I want to take that off of a deposit. I have four lined up here. This one is the company level one. These two are project level ones. And then we have this one here that says the job. And so that really demonstrates the tiers, and each of them have the different amounts. They're all accessible to me, but we can also reference what their intended use was. And this was another addition to what we released with the deposit visibility improvements, is now whenever you actually create a deposit invoice, there's a deposit description field. It's always been there. And it would pull into the deposit printout to show a line item to your customer for what you are billing them for. Now that deposit description is also going to show up on this deposit line item here. So you can reference, this was our end of year sale, media budget, full payment. We have two here for payment 1 of 3, 2 of 3 for internal services. We can reference the intention. Nobody needs to remember invoice numbers. That stuff doesn't have to happen. No one can do that. So you can reference these line items a lot easier now. And we can say, perfect, this is exactly what I need to use. That is the pot that I'm drawing from, and I can apply it. Gotta fill that out. And I can apply it. And now when I go back to my job details, we're going to see that change, of course. My number here for what my remaining deposit on the job has lessened. And the amount that I've applied has increased, of course. So that's a bit about the levels of deposits. And what I also want to make clear is these two measures, they exist on the project level and the company level as well. So you can see both of these perspectives everywhere you go. The other thing that we added that I really want to point out, last but not least, in terms of deposit visibility, is being able to pull a list really easily of where all of your remaining deposits are. Say for North Shore Auto Group, I can already tell like these people have a lot of open deposits, a lot of remaining items. Let's see how much we're left to work with just across everything. Maybe we need to provide them with an update. They're asking, what do we have left? We can go to find invoice now, and I can specify, let me put in North Shore Auto Group. And I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here and choose deposit remainder. And when I select that, I'm going to say, yes, show me everything that has a deposit remainder on it. Inherently, it's going to only show you deposits. So know that that's what you're getting back. And I'm going to find invoices, and it's going to give me a nice little list here. I've already clicked manage columns here to organize exactly what I want to show, projects, jobs to help show, what hierarchy they are on, the number for the customer's reference, perhaps when we invoiced it, when the payment was made, so you can maybe show them what they have yet to pay, the subtotal amount, and then what the remaining balance is. So if I need to provide my customer with a total, I can just go to print, click that find list wide margins, and I'm going to get a PDF to provide to them. It's going to give a nice little list here, all that detail organized like we just had with the managed columns, and it gives me the totals. So I can really easily send this off to them, and they can see the full amounts here organized nicely. And that is our deposit visibility improvements. So like I mentioned, really helpful for those of you using accrual accounting and use deposits in Function Point. And for those of you who don't, it's not cluttering up your view. It's not in the way. If you are interested to learn more about it, definitely let us know, and we can talk about what sort of benefits that has on your business. What are we thinking, Jimmy? Any questions?
We did have a question from Lisa to ask about, is deposit the same as an invoice, and how is that defined?
Yeah, so let me pull up this add invoice page because it outlines them really, really nicely. We have deposit, we have interim, and we have final. As far as your customer is concerned, the end result, like the printout, doesn't really make much of a difference to them. It's how much you bill them. If you practice accrual accounting versus your cash-based, the end result for the customer is the same. They're getting an invoice that they have to pay. The difference on your side of things, though, if you practice accrual accounting, is that a deposit is going to be very different. With our QuickBooks mapping, for example, if you were to create a deposit and say this deposit is for $10,000, when we export that to QuickBooks, those funds are not going to any income items or anything like that. It's actually going to a liability account, and it is being held there until such time that we actually issue an interim or a final invoice, apply that deposit to it, and then on the QuickBooks side, it's going to move that money from your liability account into your earned revenue. So in terms of how Function Point distinguishes them, they're very different. And I know some agencies use some agencies use the term deposit to define just money that was paid up front, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're using deposits in the sense of practicing accrual accounting. So that's a really important distinction to make.
All right, perfect. I don't think we have any further questions on here, so yeah, I think we can keep going.
Awesome. Okay, so the next one on the list then is estimate notes. This one is exciting because it's familiar also. Notes are nothing new to Function Point. We have it on our tab up here. I hope everyone's using them because they're a really good way to use, to communicate within Function Point. And you've always been able to add notes to a job or to a company, but now you can add them to an estimate. And the reason why we did that is easy communication is a must for teams, but also because there's so much collaboration that can go into building an estimate that we wanted to help facilitate that and make that even easier. Adding notes and communicating is a must before that estimate gets approved. It's happening way before. So why not make sure that we can add notes to estimates as well? So I'm going to go to an estimate here. Yeah, let's choose this one. And we can see now we have notes along the sub navigation. And if we go into add note, we can add it right here. You'll notice that this estimate is not a job yet. It's not connected to a job, nothing like that, but we can still add a note to it. And it's going to give us the exact same options as when we were adding a note to a regular job. So super familiar. We can go in here and we can use them for a multitude of things. I'm thinking we can put back and forth between like PMs and account executives looking for feedback on the scope of work and the budgets. You can also put approvals through here, internal approvals, if you need someone to weigh in on how much you've priced out for an expense, or just in general, your estimates need to go through an internal approval process. An estimate note is going to be a really great place to capture that, really quick, easy, and all of the same features, like I mentioned, exist. So if at this point you want to create a follow-up task, you can do that. It's going to show up on someone's dashboard to remind them to take action on something. You can also pin things to people. So I'm going to go back here and show you a note that I have, is prospect SOW. So I added this note, lots of detail in it, information. People are chatting back and forth. And I pinned this note to a number of people, the people who are involved. So we have Jenny and Katrina and Jess, because I knew they were all people who were going to be involved in this job when it got approved, and wanted them in the know. And so these pinned notes, if I go back to my dashboard, they're going to show up here, right, for people to see. People are going to get to know that it's important, something maybe they need to take action on, and click through to it to get them back there, and just really keep that communication going, put it right on their dashboard so they know it's of importance. And so that sort of back and forth is just really easy to do, especially with pin notes. Make sure everybody who needs to be in the know is in the know. And of course, comments. The other nice thing to note for anyone who has our client portal feature is notes on estimates work with the client portal. So if you need to communicate back and forth, maybe request another file, they forgot to send you some details, and you want to make these notes client visible, and they have access to the client portal, this is going to show up in the communication tab for them in their client portal system. So you can have that back and forth even with your customer at this stage. Okay. Now, something I really like to point out, especially when it comes to notes, and this isn't new, but it's especially helpful in terms of estimate estimate notes, is note templates. If you are not using them, you absolutely need to be. They're super helpful, and especially when we want to templatize something like an internal estimate, an internal approval routine, or prospect, scope of work, like we have right here. We have these questions we want everybody to put in, but maybe it's a little bit more informal than like a brief, for example. And we want people to be able to comment. We want this to be super collaborative. I really recommend doing note templates. And if you haven't seen them before, I'm going to go back to the estimate details here, and I'm going to click add new note. And if I click in this template section, it's going to give me some options. And these are my note templates based on the information that like it's pulling from. It can see that it has these, it qualifies for these specific fields. And when I click prospect SOW, not only is it going to fill in the title for me, but it's also going to put in those questions and just really help to get things started. So you're not starting from scratch with a note, and people can know what the expectation is. If you have not set up a note template before, or you're not using them, the place to go is admin, and then you're going to go to feature management, and then note and email templates. And this is going to give you the chance to set up a bunch of different ones. And something I can point out here as well is you also have these merge field formats. So if you want the like company name in that name of the note, so that when it appears like as a pin note on their dashboard, they know exactly who you're talking about. Really good option, really good idea. And yeah, just speeds things up. Make sure everything follows a nice format. A little bit less structured than a brief. The last thing I want to point out about estimate notes and why they're really helpful, not only from communication and collaboration, but also documentation. We want that information to stay with this piece of work. And what supports that is as soon as I take this and I turn it into a job, those notes are going to be on the job as well. They follow it. Any note that you add to the job now is also going to be seen from the estimate. Every note you see on the estimate is going to be on the job. They talk to each other now. Because estimates and jobs are the same piece of work but at different stages. Those note section talk to each other because we know that the information we're logging is relevant to the work itself, not necessarily the stage. It can be super helpful throughout. So know that when you do launch that estimate to a job, the note's going to go with it. Same thing with if you do estimate revisions. If you create a new estimate revision, that note is not going to be exclusive to a previous one. So it's really good for helping to track revisions and make notes on what you are changing throughout them. I'll take another little pause here. Jimmy, how are we doing?
Yeah, we do have a couple questions. The first one is from Garrett. Garrett is wondering if there will be any functionalities for at or tagging people by name, and so you can tag them in with an at function versus pinning.
Yeah, so we definitely, it's a request that we get a lot, and it's in our AHA submission portal. We have a number of people who have voted on it. So if you think it's a great idea, please vote on it as well, because it's something we are strongly considering at the moment, but it's not on our roadmap for now. Communication is definitely like a really important piece of estimate building and project management and finance. It's, it goes through all of those stages. So if that's something that, if at mentioning is something you'd really like to see, please let us know. We know that it is something that some agencies would like to see. It just hasn't been promoted yet over some of the other features that we're working on. And for the time being, pin notes would definitely be my suggestion to making sure that you loop in whoever might need to be like particularly involved.
Good, thank you. And the other question we have is from Christine, wondering if it's possible to shut off the notes in the estimates.
To turn off notes in the estimate. Oh, so like we don't want people starting notes just yet. It's not. However, the only way that you could really turn off notes would be to turn it off like for an individual. If maybe you have like freelancers in your system working and that's for like internal communication or something to that effect. Within that person's permission settings, you can always go in and just disable notes for them as a whole so that they can't see them. You can also make it so that they can't add them, but they can see them. So there's a lot of granularity there. It's going to be on an individual level. And I can say it's going to be on notes as a whole. It's not going to be specific to notes at different stages.
Okay. So the next question, I believe, is similar to the answer you just gave, is can you hide notes from the job summary if we don't use them?
Yes, same answer to that one. You can hide notes at any stage, but it's going to be all the stages.
Okay.
But it's interesting that two people have mentioned that. The nice thing about these webinars as well is that your initial reactions to them and your initial like questions gives me a really good insight for what some things you'd like to see are. So I'm very intrigued by the fact that two people mentioned that.
Okay, I believe that's it for now on around the notes.
Excellent. Cool. Well, with that then, we're going to talk about reporting, which is one of my, if you've worked with me before, and I know there's a few people on the call who have, you'll know that I love a good report. So I'm going to take us to BI reports, and we're going to talk about enhanced date filters. So if you are into reporting, if you've used our BI date filters, you'll know that if you've used BI in general, you know that we have lots of filtering options. And something that we're embarking on right now is really wanting to improve the range of filtering that you can do. So of course, all the different data sets can be filtered, but we're looking to add some more functionality in them to creating some really like custom and interesting ways to layer those filters together, but also provide you with different input methods. And so enhancing the date filter capabilities was our first step. And I'm really excited about it because it's going to bring a lot of efficiencies. Like I mentioned, I've worked on a lot of report options with agencies, a few of which are on the call. And we've really worked together to build dependable reports that people can keep coming back to time and time again. And of course, if you're coming back to a report over and over again, we need to have trust in that data and the way that the report has been set up. And we need to have efficiency, because if it's a day-to-day report you're pulling or just something you need to pull repeatedly and know that it's going to provide you with the same perspective every single time, we got to have the right filters capturing that. So that's really what drove this, the purpose of this enhancement. And there's two really big parts to this release. So I'm going to start by showing you the invoice data report here. And we're actually not going to spend too much time in the report. I'm going to spend it in this define your data section because this is what's really interesting. If we scroll down, we're going to see lots of date filters at the bottom. You can see they have two fields here. It's a date range. That's the way it's always been in function point. You put in a date range to say, I want to see all of the invoices between September 1st and September 30th. Great. But what if you don't want to accidentally leave something out? You're like, I don't want to stop it at September 30th. I just want to see all the invoices that have been made since like the beginning of the quarter or like the start of September. That could very well produce different results. Putting a range on things might unintentionally limit the data that you're getting. And so in order to fix that, we now have the option to switch from a range input and just to after or equal to, and before or equal to. So if I select, I'm going to actually select after or equal to, and we can do what I just said of saying, show me everything that is before September 1st. Removes that second field, makes your life a little bit easier, and you don't need to question if something like fell outside of that month and into October that needs to be considered. Another really good example is maybe you're looking for something without a date. You're like, this is what I want to filter by, but I want it to be empty. Something like payment date, for example. I can go in and say, show me payment date is empty. It's going to lock out this field for you. And now it's going to return a list for me right now of all of my invoices that have been an invoice date of after September 1st and have not been paid. So a really interesting report and possible through actually telling it to look for empty fields. So that's just a couple ways to change how the range is no longer a range essentially, and you can work it whichever way you want there. The next really interesting piece has to do with rolling ranges. So let's say you actually, I'm just going to change this and put that back to a between. I'm going to say, I'm going to look back at this invoice date and I'm going to change it to a rolling range. This is going to be your way to look at groups of time, similar to how the function used to work. You could say like past 90 days, this year, next year, all that good stuff. But this one has the additional functionality that it locks out your times here. It's going to show you, just for full transparency, of what it's actually looking at. But when I save this report, it's going to know that the next time I pull it, it's going to look at current week and it's going to adjust these dates accordingly. So this is a feature that's used in combination with saved reports. And saved reports is a premium BI reporting feature. So you'll absolutely still be, if you don't have our premium BI reporting feature, you'll still absolutely be able to use rolling ranges from the perspective of choosing a period of time. But it really shines when used in combination with saved reports in order to make sure that when you pull that again, you don't have to mess around with any of the filters. You can, send it to different people in your agency and say, you know what, this is actually we want this to be a running revenue report for the year to date. I can go into these options here. I can say current calendar year, and it's going to completely look at the entirety of the year and keep up to date with it. We can also say like in the last X months, in the last X weeks, all of this type of data. And it's going to be really helpful for building reports that you can pull time and time again and not have to mess around with those filters. So for example, if I do current calendar year, I can continue and run this report. And I'm going to build it as a line graph. Let's kind of go a little crazy here. And line graphs are part of our premium BI reporting feature. So I'm just going to show off a little cool feature of using them. Sorry, a second. All right. So I pulled my data as a table, but I'm going to switch it to a line graph, and I'm going to build like what we mentioned. I'm going to do a forecast for the year, and I can do that by setting up my x-axis here. I'm going to say show me invoice date. Oops. And I'm going to see that against the subtotals. And then I'm going to make this even more interesting. I'm going to add a column to this report because I know it's not in here already, but I have a lot more columns to choose from. I'm going to add in the name of the account executive assigned to those jobs that the invoices were for. And when I decide to color by that, it's going to get really cool. And it's going to now be a revenue report by account executive to show what everybody actually, what everybody's deals translated to in terms of revenue month over month. And this is going to be ongoing. I can save this. I can then share it with whoever in the business needs to stay tuned on it. And they don't need to worry about those filters. It's going to keep rolling. And what's nice about this also is you can see here, it's obviously not November or December, but if your team does pre-billing, that's going to be especially helpful. Rolling ranges are going to make sure that we're always taking into account not only what we've done so far, but what's to come. So that's a little example. And then when I go in and I save this, I can save this as my, let's see this as my year to date, or actually I'm just going to do my rolling year revenue report, and I'll save that. And then when you save a report, and let me go back to select a new report here, it's going to show up in your saved report section. So I have that rolling revenue report. It's saving with my rolling range selection, and it's always just going to keep up to speed with that. So that's going to be my report next year as well, and it's going to keep helping me out there, and I don't need to mess around with it. A couple other really good examples of using rolling ranges, something like the creative team's 90-day forecast report. And this one here, I can say in the next X days, put in 90. And this one is based on a resource allocation report by company and job. And I don't have to touch this at all. It's showing me exactly the creative team in the next this many days. And I can then report on what our next 90 days looks like for the creative team at any given point in time and know it's keeping up to speed with where I want that perspective to be. Another really great example, my team here, I've selected all of my staff that I'm responsible for like checking their timesheets. And I can say the work date is last week to make sure that it's always giving me a report on last week's timesheet so I can go through and just make sure that everything looks good. So many different ways to use rolling ranges, something that we've been requested a lot over time. And for those of you that use BI reports, but also our premium BI reporting users, this is going to just help you push it just so much further and get a lot of good stuff out of them. How are we doing, Jimmy? Any questions?
All right, we got a few questions here. So why don't we start with, hold on. Okay, so the first one, will this search yield more than 10,000 rows?
It will not at the current point. I know exactly what you're talking about. We currently have a limit on the number of results that BI puts out. It is limited to 10,000. However, and we're looking to fix for that. That is on our list for something that we want to expand and provide you guys with a solution for. However, better data filters to be able to give you right off the bat is inherently going to help filter down that data before you actually get into the report. We've added a lot more date filters as options. So filters that you would previously have to like pull the report, you hit the 10,000 limit, you get in there and you need to filter it down. Now we can just filter it right off the top. But that being said, sometimes you still need a report that shows you more than 10,000 lines, and that's something that we're looking at.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, I like the rolling range report, but is it possible to schedule the report to run and be emailed?
Not yet, but that is a great question, and it is absolutely what we had in mind when we built this. So this was sort of like a precursor. In order to do something like that, we first had to make sure that it had responsive rolling ranges. So you are exactly on the same wavelength as us. That's something that's on our minds to do next.
Okay, awesome. All right, the next question is from Jacqueline. Will the new filters be available on profit analysis reports as well, specifically the ability to pull by invoice date? And the reason is they want to line this up with QuickBooks as they make a lot of jobs close long after the final invoice.
Okay. So the changes here will absolutely align with like the profit analysis report. All of the same changes will be available on there. Off the top of my head, I don't think that the profit analysis report references invoice date, just simply because that's on the profit analysis report is a job level report, and there can, of course, be multiple invoices and therefore multiple invoice dates associated with it. Um, so off the top of my head, I would want to suggest doing an invoice data report, which can still give you reference to what status the job was in. So kind of flipping it and doing it the reverse would be your way to get more granular and build up.
Could we use the activity date to accomplish the same thing though, Talia?
Oh, totally. Yeah. So activity date is a really interesting field. It's only on some reports, the ones that it's relevant to. And what it does is instead of filtering by something like invoice date or work date, it filters all of them in the same go. And so if I put in like last month's date period in here, it's going to show me everything that was invoiced last month and all of the work that was done last month. So I won't be able to see like invoice dates specifically, but within a range, it's going to filter that data for me. Yeah, if you're looking for invoice dates to be presented on the other side, not this report, but if you are looking to filter by like invoice activity, yes, use that activity date filter.
All right, perfect. All right, so that's all the questions for around the rolling range report for now.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Well, with that, then we've talked about all the things that have happened last quarter. Let's switch gears and let's talk about everything that's coming up in the next quarter. I'm gonna share my screen with you here. Moment.
I can share if you like.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. Thank you, Jimmy.
Okay. Give me 1 sec. All right, there we go.
Nice. Thank you. Okay. So we got a nice little list here. And you'll see the first thing we've got coming up is an improvement collection. So in the spirit of Halloween, this is going to be a collection of wonderful treats. Lots of things across the system that I think there's going to be something in it for everybody. It's going to be a collection of things that are, in their own respect, a little bit smaller, but things that I know a lot of people have been like just dying to see. The full collection list is a little bit of a surprise, but I can say one of them is on the list is something we've heard from a number of people. They're going to be super happy that we are going to be introducing commas to BI reports. You're now going to see commas in all of those numbers. So it's going to look really clean, really nice, presents very nicely in the reports afterwards. So this is going to be a collection of really cool things and definitely something in there for everyone. November is going to bring estimate settings. So this is a really simple premise, but it's going to make your team's life a lot easier. We are going to give administrators the ability to make fields mandatory in estimates. So now you can make it easier not only for your team to like know exactly what the expectation is. You can, maybe reset the expectation with processes that have been in place for a while. Make sure that nobody slips on putting in like a delivery date. If it's part of your process that you got to put a delivery date on every single estimate, just, it's an estimate, give it a good try. So you can set required fields for the estimates. And all of that is going to translate to even better reporting at the end. It's going to come out into some really nice organized reports. The goal there just to make sure that everyone has a solid grasp on what is expected in the estimate building process, but also to make sure that we have the data we need in the end when it comes time to pull reports. Next up on the list, and I'm sure as soon as Jimmy switched the screen to this, a few eyes pinged right to that center one, an Asana integration. In December, we are going to be launching an Asana integration. So for all of you project managers out there who are maybe working in Asana alongside Function Point or have worked with it in the past and maybe have a fondness for it, we are going to be doing a two-way integration. The workflow that is sort of going to be proposed here to people who want to make use of it is your jobs are going to still be created in Function Point. So when you build an estimate and you turn it into a job, it's going to send that job as a project into Asana, and your project managers can go in there, build a schedule, build a schedule that gets sent back into Function Point as tasks so that your team can pick up there, work with the tasks, track their time. Finance still has everything they need in Function Point. So really this integration is going to make sure that your project managers get what they want, wherever they want, and make sure that they can build the schedule that they're happy with, while all of the rest of the process still takes place in Function Point, and everybody has what they need still as with Function Point centered as that like all-in-one tool and your single source of truth. And then I also should mention it's a two-way sync, so any updates that happen to that job or project or those tasks in either system are going to transfer between the two and make sure that both systems stay up to date and look exactly the same. So no double entry, no having to go to both systems to make sure that updates and dates get transferred into both. It'll be seamless. So that's a really exciting one. If you have questions about this ahead of December, I know this might be something people want to talk about before it's released so they can like hit the ground running with it and just want to ask some questions. Please reach out to us. Please reach out to product@functionpoint.com and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And I'm also going to make sure that in the resources that we follow up with, we're going to share a link to a support article that we've already put together on it that's just going to give you an idea and an overview of what this integration would look like should you want to just sort of discuss it with your team. And it's still, it's still in development, but a couple of those things might change, but it's the premise is going to be exactly, what I just mentioned and helping you accomplish the same goal. So. Following that, in early 2024, we're going to be doing calendar integrations. So that's with Outlook and Google Calendar. And if you've heard from me previously, you'll know that we were working on this for a little bit and we were doing a one-way integration. And this new release that we're going to be coming out with in early 2024 is actually going to be a two-way. We want to make sure that this presents the full solution, not only from the perspective of making sure that your creative team and your collaborators have their Function Point tasks on their calendar, but also making sure that meetings are sent from their calendar and into Function Point, because we want to make sure that your traffic managers actually have a really, really honest and accurate look at someone's capacity. We know meetings and just their ever-changing nature play a really big impact on capacity planning and looking at resourcing. So we want to make sure that the two systems are going to really speak to each other and present the full picture either way you look at it. And then the last thing I have on the list here for you today is our project management initiative, phase 1. So this is something that we have been working on and strategizing this year. It's something that we're investing a longer time into. It's one of our special projects that's currently on the go, where we are actually going to be redesigning all of our project management focus pages in Function Point, beginning with phase 1, the schedule module. So we're going to be redesigning the scheduling module, keeping all the wonderful features, layering in a couple more, and introducing a brand new user interface to Function Point. This is going to be the first place that you see our brand new UI and get to engage with it. And then throughout the project management initiative, you're going to be able to see consecutive or additional things changing and aligning. Our goal with this, like I mentioned before, is that there's so many wonderful features in Function Point, and we want to make sure that that user journey is as seamless as possible, and the ones that you need to use are exactly where they need to be and are intuitive to your team. So we're starting with schedules because that's where every good project management workflow starts, with an awesome schedule. And so those are changes you can expect to see in early 2024. And like I mentioned, it's a long project, so it's going to you're going to see a lot of changes after that point. But get excited for that one because it's going to be really telling of what's to come.
All right. Wow, Talia. Okay, keeping us in suspense with a few things, especially the Halloween treats coming up. But we do have a couple of quick questions here, and I like a couple of them here. The first one is the integration with Asana. Jen is curious, why create an integration with Asana instead of implementing perhaps features that other project management tools like Asana already have?
Absolutely. So I love that question, and I'm really happy to answer is that we are doing both. So that's what the project management initiative is. We're going to be, of course, redesigning the project management tool, but also layering in new features. Because I know there's some there that Asana does, like subtasks that people really want to see in function point. So those are things we're going to be layering in as well. But we also want to make sure that we're offering options to people. The other thing that the Asana integration provides is it's a really good transition tool, especially for some people who are just beginning onboarding or they're trying to get their project managers into Function Point, but maybe they have a ton of open jobs, things we need to see through. That Asana integration is going to make that transition period a lot easier.
Okay, awesome. The next question is from Robin. Will around the calendar integration, is that going to include Google?
Yes, it will.
Okay. And I
I think I
believe
probably just said
Outlook.
Outlook, didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably
Yeah.
just said Outlook. That's what we use. It was stuck in my brain, but it's going to be Google and Outlook.
Okay. Perfect. Will the Asana integration be at an additional cost, like QuickBooks?
That is yet to be determined at the moment. I can't answer it at the moment, but we'll absolutely keep people posted. Yeah, I know that the Asana integration, especially like if you're a premium or an enterprise user, is going to have a cost to it associated to your team. So know that we are definitely taking that into consideration. If you're paying for Asana, you're paying for Function Point. We want to make sure that the solution in the end makes the most sense for your team, like from a workflow, but also from a cost perspective. So that's something we're considering.
Okay, perfect. Next, wow, lots of questions today. Okay, from Miguel, are you going to create other integrations outside of Asana and Calendar, for example, Basecamp?
Oh yes, lots of integrations to come. So really exciting. We've just spent a lot of time working on our API, and we're hitting the ground running with using it. So that's what you're seeing in terms of the Asana integration and the calendar integration. And we're absolutely going to be working on more after that. I don't have anything necessarily prioritized to the roadmap at this time, but that is something that we would love to hear everybody's feedback on. I know something like Basecamp absolutely is something we've heard a lot about. Additional finance integrations, media tools, expense tools integrations. So if your team really wants to see anything, please check out our AHA Ideas portal. It can be found by clicking the question mark, the little help icon in any of your like Function Point systems. And then there's an option to submit an idea that will take you there. And there's a little sidebar on it that says integrations. If you click that, it's going to show you all the ones that people have already recommended, and feel free to vote on them because we're really looking to add lots of integrations to our roadmap. So many more to come.
All right, exciting. So the next question is, will the calendar integration also speak to the work calendar or employees out of offices?
Great question. That's not part of our current scope of work. However, it is something that was considered. So if that's something that you would really like to see, it's good for us to know. I've heard it from a couple people. Because I guess what we understand is, yeah, you want to make sure that when people put out of offices in their work calendar, that it just shows up in Function Point as that hashed out time off. It's not something that's currently in the scope of work, but definitely worth considering. I'll give it some thought.
Okay, so what you're saying is, it sounds like it's put in the feedback into the HaHa portal, so then you'll see that and maybe reach out to the individuals or talk to them.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm hearing, at least.
It is exactly what you're hearing. That's something that I really want to encourage also. All of these questions are fantastic, and I really want to hear them as well, even if it's not something that we're planning at the moment. Hearing them and knowing where all of your minds are going and the ways that you see those scopes of work being pushed farther is something that like I really want to know, so that we can consider it for the scope of work currently and also down the line. And I'll be reaching out to talk to you individually.
All right, awesome. Let's see. No, I think that's all the questions we have for today. Once again, for everyone, thank you so much for joining. We are pretty much at the top of the hour, but I want to let you know that this is recorded, so we will share the recording. And I hope that one thing, Talia, maybe if you can wrap us up and talk a little bit about when we can expect the next product webinar.
Yes.
There seems to be quite a bit of interest.
Absolutely. So that's something I'm just really excited about in general. Like it says in the name, this is going to be a series. So we're going to all check back in together every quarter. So I'll be talking to you all in January. I can't believe that's only 3 months away. And we're going to be talking in the new year. And I'm going to be showing you all of the great things we've come out with since then, the things that I spoke about today. But then I'm also going to have more information for you in terms of dates for that calendar integration and for the first phase of our project management initiative, as well as more things added to the roadmap for for the next quarter. So this sort of cadence is going to be recurring, so you know exactly what you can expect on the next one. Lots of good tips, but also lots of exciting updates for what's to come.
All right. Thank you, Talia. Well, to wrap us up, I do want to remind everyone we are getting ready on the marketing side to generate our 2024 industry report. So we please feel free to go and fill out the survey. It's about 7 to 10 minutes long, but you will have a chance to enter a draw for $300 for an Amazon gift card for filling it out. This will be really, your input would be really appreciated to get us the feedback and the analysis for how the industry is doing. But thank you all for joining today. Look forward to chatting again about product with you, Talia, in 3 months from now, I guess, in 2024.
See you then.
All right. Have a good one and have a good day, everyone.
Take care.